Hello and welcome to another track guide with the Dallara IR-18 for the US Open Wheel B series. This week we'll be visiting Sebring, which is a track that we visited last season as well. A very challenging track. This is a very hot temperature we'll be facing as well. It's at noon, so I think my practice temperature is about 48 Celsius, which is really hot. As per usual, we'll go through the lap from the cockpit, and then I'll point out some setup changes that I made for this week. I'll send you guys only the qualifying set, as the only difference it has with the race set is really the fuel level. Next we'll go for the full track guide, and finally explore some strategy options you can use for this week's race. Alright, let's go. So talking about setup changes, we as usual start from the iRacing default setup for Sebring, and I've given you guys the qualifying set. So for that you change here to alternate, the tire. No further changes here in the first tab. Second tab, really we need more front grip, and then in fact I think we need more understeer is what I felt, because the car is really trigger happy in power and Sebring is very bumpy, and so it's really easy to lose the rear. So I changed bar diameter here from small to large, and blade position from 4 to 5. You can even experiment with 6 here if you'd like. Yeah, I mean rear is fine at 2. You can experiment at 1 if you need even more understeer, I'd say. To me, I think that 5.2 is a nice balance. Obviously you want transparent screen here as well. And finally in drivetrain, at Sebring, at bumpy tracks in general like Road America is another example, I like changing the engine map from 1 to 6. What this does, the car has the same final power output, but the throttle curve is a bit less aggressive, so it's kind of exponential, I would say. So if you attack the throttle at first, it won't register as much as linear of a pressure as it would in engine map 1, but the final power output is the same, which is different from engine maps 2 to 5. So you can experiment here. If you're very good at throttle control, maybe you don't need this, and then you can run with engine maps 1 rather than 6, but otherwise I think this is a bit safer. And the differential is something that I usually change a lot. What I found here is that the car is very easy to lose on throttle, on corner exit, and so I need to make it as stable as I can. So I'll up the clutch plates here down the preload by about 0 or 7. You can experiment with that. And finally ramp angles, I want as little as I can get on power, so like 30 ideally, and then with coast you can experiment with 60 or 85. So 85-30 is good, 60-30 is good as well. So experiment with those two and see what you find, but definitely 30 on power because the car is very trigger happy. So generally those were the changes we made this week. I'm not too happy with the setup because the track is very bumpy, and as I'm not the best at setting dampers, I think that maybe making the car a little bit less reactive on bumps would be good. But yeah, maybe if you're good at setting dampers, you could work something out here, but I've left these at their default values. Now moving on to the track guide, we start the lap in 5th gear, as you can see. Now the approach to turn 1 here, I think Chase is better for this. So if you look at the wall here, you see that there is some sort of a kink here, right? So the wall comes about straight and then it turns to the left. So this kink here is going to be your turn in point. Once we turn in, you're going to downshift from 6th to 5th and then to 4th. And once you apex, there's going to be a cone there. I'm going to point it out. That's where you're going to start accelerating. If you're with older tires, or if you are running the hard tire, the primary tire during the race, you probably want to tap the brakes a little bit here and only accelerate once you're absolutely sure you make it out. But with soft tires, even with the full tank of fuel, you can do this no problem at all. Alright, so coming up here, you'll see that I get to the kink here, and then I'll start turning the wheel. Okay, so this is the cone that I'm talking about, right? This cone over here. As you move over, you see that I'm downshifting to 4th right about now. And then once I get to the cone, I start accelerating once again. Not all the way, because you really want to make sure you're not going to make it out. If you go off track here, it's mostly fine. You can recover the car pretty easily. If the center of the car goes over the curb, even as we approach here at the end, right? So if the nose of the car goes over this patch of grass here, this patch of dirt here, that's going to be an off track. So if I chase, so you can see a little bit better. Alright, so turn 2 next. Your braking point is going to be the 3 cones here. You're going to brake hard, about 90-80%. Downshifting fast from 5th to 2nd, and then once you start the turn in, then you finally downshift into 1st. So you see now I'm in 1st. You really want to be careful. This curb here, you don't want to go over it at all in terms of turning point. The first cone here, once you go past it, it's a good turning point for you. So we turn in, as you can see. I want to get as close as possible to the yellow line and not actually go over the curb. If you go over it, it's fine, but you have to be really careful to not accelerate the car if only the right tires are in contact with the floor, which is what usually happens. And so the car is gonna spin out to the left and you're gonna hit the wall over there. So as you can see here, I avoided the curb only barely. So continuing this section, after you go through here, I want my right side tire to go as close as possible to the curb here. There's a very flat part of the curb here, as you can see, so you can go over this part, not the taller part here. Ideally, if you stick to the white line, it's going to be safer for sure. And then, well, the section is really complex, so you can see I have to pause a lot. And we're in 2nd gear here, you're not going to downshift. Once you come up to this curb here, at the start of the curb, you're going to brake about 20-30%, and then you're going to start turning in the car. You see right about now. You see I'm not braking a lot. It's not actually a trail brake. You do have to put in some pressure, but not too much. And now, once again, you want to get as close as possible to the yellow line, but not go over the curb because it's very tall. And once you are sure that you can make it out of the corner, these orange tires here are a good reference if you want to know that you're getting close to the acceleration point. They're actually a bit later, as you can see, right? They start accelerating about here. So maybe you could use this transition from the white set of tires to the blue set, and then you start accelerating, but not too much because you don't want to overshoot here. Overshooting here, especially on the first lap with cold tires, very easy, and you're gonna lose a ton of time. Everybody's gonna pass you to the left, and you're gonna basically drop to last place. So let's see this section now in chase cam. So 3rd cone, we brake. first gear. The exit curve is mostly safe, you can go over it. You don't actually gain time going over it, so there's no need to, but if you go over it, it's okay. And as you can see, the car was bouncing a lot there because Sebring, as you know, is a very bouncy track. Okay, so let's go to the next. This is an easy flat section, right? So we're coming up to this corner here in 6th gear. In race conditions, I would say maybe the 4 cones here, especially the hard tires. Don't push it too much because you're going to lose time by overshooting the corner. But as I am in qualifying set here with the soft tires, I can push my braking point a little bit further. So about 50% here. So 3.5 cones, if you will. Braking very, very hard, 90% or so. And downshifting fast from 6th to 1st. Some people like going over this curb here before they start the turn in. I myself don't do that, so you can experiment. I'm really not sure if it gains time or not. And then you want to get your braking done up until this point. As you turn into the corner, the turning point is basically the start of the curb, right? As the curb starts, you're going to start turning in. There you go. And now you want your right side tire over the curb, not on the dirt, but over the curb is fine. As you can see here, my line is good. The car bounces a lot here. We'll see when I go fast, you see that happens. And so you have to be very gentle on the throttle. Maybe I'm not being as gentle as I should, as you can see here. And once you're sure you're going to make it out, then go all the way. Do try and not get your left tires over the dirt here. It's fine. You probably not spin out, but yeah, iffy at best. And then, yeah, out here it's easy flat. So let's see this corner here from chase cam now. Okay, this next section is easy flat, so go over it fast. Okay, coming up here to this corner here, through the magic of video editing, I just made a cut here and I looked up this corner turn 10 called Cunningham. Okay, so let's go. In race conditions, hard tires, I'd probably brake here on 3.5 cones, about here, right? But since qualifying set, soft tires, I can easily brake at 3 cone. We're gonna brake very hard, about 80%, and downshift from 5th all the way to 1st. So there you go. Actually, even more. I think I'm close to 90% here, almost 100%. As you can see, you have to bleed off the brakes as you lose speed because obviously this is a downforce car. And then basically your turning point is going to be the 1 cone here, as you can see. As per usual with Sebring, you kind of got the gist right now. I want my right side tire to go over the line, but not on top of the curb. This curb is super dangerous. Okay, if there is a curb that you absolutely, there's a curb that you absolutely do not want to go over, it's this one. I've seen too many accidents here. If you go over this curb, what's going to happen is the right side of your car is going to fly up. The left side of the car is going to have contact with the floor. You're going to accelerate and then you're going to be going right about here. All right. So yeah, be very, very precise on this corner here. If you have to overshoot and go like wide on the apex, that's way better than going over the curb. Okay. And so in terms of line, you want to obviously hit the apex and you can accelerate pretty early here. So you don't have to actually be on the inside here. You can go to the outside of the track here and gain some additional speed. I'd say don't go all the way to the curb here because there's a left-hander coming up, but if you're about, I don't know, let's see here. Yeah, if you're about like 2 car lengths away from the curb, that is fine. Maybe a little bit over, right about here, but not any further. And then this next section, yeah, this next section is pretty easy. You can just try and hit the yellow lines without going over the curbs, as you well know. As the tires get older, it's very possible that the car is going to start sliding the rears a little bit, so you have to be ready to catch the car, counter steer. You can use this part over here if you need to on some emergencies, but yeah, otherwise just be aware that that can happen and will happen, in fact. Okay, so let's see this section of chase cam. Right, so next stop is turn 13, which is called Tower. I think this is probably the hardest corner in the track, in my opinion. Very easy to get it wrong, very bumpy as well. So in terms of braking point, you're looking at the 3 cone here with qualifying or a very new set of softs. With hard tire, I'd pull it back like a car length or 2, maybe right about here where my mouse is. So there's 2 techniques you can use for this corner. You can go right about straight from here, and then you aim for the 1 corner, and then you turn in. Or you can do like I do, and I basically try to straighten up the car close to the white line, and then brake in a straight line before turning in. I've seen both work, so do whatever you feel is best. And as you can see, I started braking right about, well, not even at the 3 cone, but I'm braking already. We're gonna go from 4th to 2nd gear. And the most important part in this corner is absolutely the turning point and actually hitting the apex. So in terms of turn in, after the 1 cone, okay, so past the 1 cone and start turning in, what you want is for your right side tire to go on this gap here between the yellow line and the curb. Do not, in any circumstance, go over the curb. That's going to upset the car really badly. And this corner is particular in that if you don't hit the apex, so let's say I'm a bit to the left here, right? It's going to be very hard to make the corner because there's some sort of camber here, as you can see. And it's very easy to shoot wide here. So this corner, you need to practice it over and over again until you get consistent with it. I do recommend you use the active reset feature. Maybe you save somewhere around here, and then just run the corner over and over and over again until you have completely mechanized the movement. So 2nd, and well, I'm gonna let you guys see, and then I'm gonna explain. So as you can see, it's a very bumpy corner as well. So the problem is that you have to be very gentle on the brake. Keep an eye here or on the Race Lab widget you have on your screen right now. So I'm still not attacking the throttle, and as you can see, I'm extremely progressive, because if you are too aggressive with the throttle here, the car is very likely going to spin out, or if for some reason it doesn't spin out, you are very likely going to overshoot the corner here. In terms of off-track, this is a very lenient corner actually, so you can have the center of the car on top of the curb. I'm not sure on this, so don't quote me on this, but I think that if the right side tires don't go over the yellow line here, you're gonna be fine. Or the center of the car over the edge of the curb. It's one of the 2. So let's see this corner in chase cam. Okay, so this next section is easily flat. Well, I mean, I can maybe comment on the fact that you want to go close to this curb here, but not actually over it. And then here you want to cut this curb. I generally aim the center of the car on the yellow line here. Going over this curb, it's a bit tall, so it upsets the car, so you don't actually gain much time. This next curve, however, is a lot flatter than the last, so you can have the center of the car in the middle of the curb, like so. Now for this next corner here, if you're feeling adventurous, you can brake on the 3 cone. I think that's a bit too close for comfort for me, so I like braking right about in the middle here, in between the curb and the 3 cone. As you can see, actually, you know what? Yeah, I start braking on the 3 cone this lap. But definitely with older tires or with the hard tires, the primaries, you need to pull this back a little bit. And so we're going to downshift from 5th to 2nd, and the critical part in this corner here is not missing the apex. So you're going to turn in right about on the final cones here, as you can see. But the critical part is that you want your right side tires to go over the curb. So you can easily lose like 2/10 here if you take the corner too wide. But as is usual with Sebring, you don't want to miss the curb. So if for some reason your right side tire dips below here, it's quite a tall curb, as you can see here. There's this gap here, so this is going to upset the car massively. So if anything, it's better that you overshoot the apex a little bit than to dip in this gap here. But right now I think I'm good. Let's see. Yeah, this is, wow, this is, okay. It's in rear chase. Yeah, this is as close as you can get pretty much. Like, I'm very close to falling off the curb, but the tire is still on top of it, so it's fine. So yeah, maybe this was a bit too adventurous, not thinking about it. Okay, so next section, you're gonna be in second gear, you're gonna accelerate out of here. There's time for you to upshift to third, right about here. And then, once again, you wanna ride on top of this curb, not fall off it. And once the curb ends, this is your break point. You want, this is a very easy corner for you to have references. There's a lot of them. So what I do here is I ride over the curb. Once the curb is done, I start braking. In terms of where I want to put the car, I want my right side tire to go over the yellow line, oh, sorry, the white line. Once that happens, I want to turn in. So it's basically a timing exercise. So you see, I go over it, and this concrete patch, as it starts a square here, is a good marker as well for you to turn in. And it's pretty important that you get this next corner right, because it's a very long straight coming up. So ideally, this is way too slow, right? Oops. Okay, let's do a fourth here. Okay, so now what you want is for your right side tire to go over the curb, not dip below it. And really want to be looking right about here. It's a very flat corner, so it's hard to see where the car is going ultimately. But what you want is to start accelerating as soon as possible so you don't overshoot here, but you get the best corner exit you can. So you see I'm going to cut it very close here, which is pretty good, right? Yeah, you're not going to get an off track if you go with the left side tires on the dirt here, but you're going to lose time. Okay, you're not going to be able to have as much traction as you would. And this kind of mistake can easily cost you a position during the race. Okay, so let's see this section in chase cam now. Yeah, I missed the apex a little bit there. Okay. So the final corner here, which is the sunset band, very fun corner. So we're gonna approach it, full throttle. Oh yeah, I didn't mention, but I guess this is obvious. This is the best overtaking spot on the track, so if you wanna overtake someone that's slower than you, you really wanna make sure you get a good exit on this corner here. And as you're sure you're not gonna overshoot, you use the push-to-pass here, right? So you don't have to wait for the straight actually. So you just push-to-pass here, and then you draft whoever's in front of you, and you wanna get the inside line. It's kinda hard to do a switchback. So try overtaking from the outside, and because the corner is very bumpy, so yeah, but if the person is covering the inside, then what can you do, right? Okay, coming up to the final corner here. Turning point is pretty easy actually. So it's gonna be in between the 1 and 2 cones, so 1.5. And then you turn in, but you don't actually brake or even let go of the throttle just yet. Okay, once the turn in is done, and you kind of go past this white line here, then you can start braking. It's not a very heavy brake, as you'll see here, right about 30-40%. Depending on the health of your tires, you can aim for having the car over this white line here. So you're going to cross a white line. Once that happens, then you're going to cut back into the corner. There are several lines that work here at Sunset. So it's a very interesting corner in that way. And you're going to downshift slowly from 6th to 5th, 4th, then finally 2nd. You want to get close to the apex here, but don't actually, you see very intentionally, I don't go close to the wall here because this area is extremely bumpy. So you want to go a bit wide here. And then you have to have your eyes peeled once you see that the car is pivoting at a rate that if you start accelerating, you're going to make it out, then okay, go into throttle. Don't go actually 100%, so kind of experiment. If you look at my throttle trace here, you see exactly what I'm meaning. So I start accelerating, then okay, it's fine, and then finally I go all the way. Very, very easy to lose the rears as the tires get older, as the stint progresses. And so you have to be very careful with throttle application because the corner is, once again, very bumpy. This new scan, we don't have the outside dirt / grass that there used to be here. So you can very easily go over close to the wall. And that concludes the lap. So let's see this final corner here in chase cam. So the car is absolutely bouncing all around there, as you can see. This is a hard track for sure. So that was a 140.19, as you can see there on the wheel. That's a lap around Sebring for you. So in terms of strategy, well, it's actually pretty easy, because if you calculate, you see there's 35 laps required to finish the race. And so you'd have to basically consume about 4 liters of fuel per lap to make it on a single stop. Usually you consume about 4.7, 4.8 at full throttle with engine map 1. And so I've tested it out, and it really is not feasible, or at least economical in the sense of time-wise, let's call it that, to try a one-stopper, so don't even bother. In terms of tire strategy, it's pretty straightforward as well, because the track is very, very hot because of the time of day. The soft tires are going to have a very low durability, about 2 laps, maybe 3, if you're pushing it. And so clearly you're going to want to do a complete stint with your primary tires, your hard tires, twice, and then use your softs at the end. Otherwise, you can do the opposite, and you can start with the softs. Then after about 6 or 7 laps, you're gonna pit and then do the final 2 stints using the hard compound. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you had fun. Hope it was useful for you, and I'll see you guys possibly next week with Chicago. I don't have the track yet, but maybe I'll buy it and see how it goes. Thanks, and see you soon. Bye bye.